Ladies and gentlemen, we're very privileged to have with us this evening Mr. Tony Jacklin, CBE.
Thank you all very much. I thought it might be appropriate tonight to just speak about my relationship with last year's recipient, Seve Ballesteros, a great guy. I first heard about Seve. Gary Player and I were traveling together in Spain to the La Manga Club to open La Manga in 1974, and we stopped off in Madrid. We were in a little plane, and we somehow came across Manuel Ballesteros, who was at the airport, and he started to tell us about this brother he had, who was incredible. And Gary and I are looking at each other, and yeah, we've heard it all before. And of course, it was a couple of years on from there, 1976, when he made that audacious chip on the 18th hole at Royal Birkdale between the bunkers and finished second to Johnny Miller at the British Open, and went on 3 years later from the car park to win his first Open Championship in '79. And I remember going with him. In those days, there was no trailers or people, that went around fixing the clubs. And Barry Willett was the man who used to fix all our clubs, and he was at Royal St George's Golf Club, and Seve and I were playing at Wentworth, and we both shared a car to go to Royal St George's to have our clubs tweaked. And I remember saying to him at that point, it's a lot easier from the fairway, Seve, to get it done. He said, you don't understand how I all of this emotion that he had. And I said, I understand, but it's still easier from the fairway. Anyway, 83 came around. I was asked by Ken Schofield and Colin Snape to take on the captain's role in Ryder Cup. I'm not going to labour this, but 81, Seve was banned from playing in the Ryder Cup. Some of you with no grey hair in here might not remember any of that. But, and I was a little miffed myself because I felt I'd been left out in 81. And I was done with the Ryder Cup, and I was quite shocked to be asked at the time. And it was an opportunity I felt to change things. I really didn't care at that point whether I did it or not, but I'd identified some things through the late 60s and 70s that I felt needed to be addressed, to level the playing field, as it were. And I didn't immediately answer Ken and Colin Snape when they asked me. I said, I need an evening to think about this. And I met them the next day, and I said, I will do it, but I'll do it on my own terms. And Ken alluded to that in that little piece of film you saw. I felt that the Americans were doing everything up here at first class. We were flying in the back of the bus at the time, wearing anything anybody would give us. We couldn't take our caddies with us. It just wasn't a level playing field. And I made a few demands, and, Concord, and I think most of you know what those things were. But at least we were able to stand on the first tee level, even. We were as good as they were. And once that, we took care of that. So that was one thing. Lord Derby was in the area at the time, and I I said, my first question, having said I'll do it on the basis that, you'll give me what I want, my first question was, what about Seve? And I remember saying to Lord Derby, asking him that question, and he said, well, you've accepted the captain's job is your problem. Well, for me, Seve was anything but a problem. Having said that, his PR in the UK was suffering, the media was up in arms a bit, they were needling him all the way, but I knew I needed him on that team, otherwise it would have been a hopeless cause. I arranged to meet him within a week and met him at the Prince of Wales Hotel in Southport, and he spent the first half hour venting, this and that and the other, and they don't know, and this and that, and I said, I know, but your PR needs attention, and I've got carte blanche basically to do what we need to do we've leveled the playing field. I think with the players we've got now and the ones we've got coming up, we have a good chance to really make a difference in this event. And talked and talked. I wish he'd have been a fly on the wall because it was a special time. And a couple of days later, he said, "Okay, I help you." And of course, once he was on board, he was incredible. I mean, he was a one-man army. I told some of you this afternoon, how he was. He was incredible. And just going back a little bit, it's fascinating. When I first went to play in America in the late 60s, there were only half a dozen foreign players, they called us then. And there was a small nucleus of American players that resented our presence in America. They didn't want us there. They thought America belonged to them. They thought all the prize money should be theirs, and so on. And they made it very clear. It wasn't any of the great players. It wasn't the Nicklases and Palmers and Trevinos and Millers, or Caspers, for that matter. It was, a nucleus of players, and I won't name who they were. But Seve came up against the same thing in the 80s. I mean, I played with players back then that made it their business not to speak to me all the way around. And I used to see my name against them in the draw, and I thought, my God, how am I going to get through this? It was a tough time. But I think it ingrained in both of us, we wanted to show that just because they had the best courses, the best climate, the best everything, it didn't make them any better than we were. And inside, I think we both had this sort of mutual feeling about what needed to be done, and we could, we set out to prove it. 83, we lost by a tiny bit, and there's a picture, I alluded to it this afternoon somewhere on a video, where they went along the dais and our faces were pretty long. We looked like we were going to win at Palm Beach Gardens in 83 all afternoon, and it was just snatched away from us at the last minute. And it was Seve that said, hey, this is not a loss. This is the first time, we've really come close in America. This is a victory. This is something, we've changed the trend. And of course, you all know what happened after that and what happened since. So this was a special fella. On the golf course, he did impossible things as a routine. If I asked him to do anything during that period, David Guilford, the likes of, not all these players are equal. Some were more apprehensive than others. They weren't all great players, but Seve was the first to step up to the plate. Go and give him a shoulder up. Tell him how well you think he's swinging. The things he did through those 4 years that I was around was amazing. There were great times, and of course we were all saddened by his passing. It fills me with pride to think that the matches have gone on since that time. I think we're 8 out of the last 10 now, something like that. You couldn't have written a script, of course, on Chicago, and so it continues. But I'm very pleased to accept this award on behalf of the European PGA, and I wish you continued success. I suppose the Ryder Cups, in part, were responsible for bringing you all together, and I'm very grateful for that too. Thank you all very much.